What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Cleverus.
This is our full spoiler chat for the first 3 episodes of Wheel of Time, out now on Amazon Prime. Full spoilers, because honestly, the show is great.
Yeah.
The show is great. Watch it. But we're going to talk about everything that happened and the things that we don't understand yet, because we haven't read the books, because we get nerdy nightly.
And we thought we'd share it with you.
That is right. A long intro today to set up that we are not book readers, but trailers.
We read books, but we haven't read these ones.
This series. Yeah, absolutely. We have not read this series, and the trailers really drew us into this world. We're both huge fantasy nerds. I'm surprised neither of us has read these books. But the trailers really sparked a lot of creative joy in us, I think. Mm-hmm. And so them dropping this weekend was an absolute blast of excitement. Unfortunately, it was the same weekend as the new Pokemon games, as well as when we got our PS5. So we've been busy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we are happy to share our spoiler chat on the first 3 episodes with you now, as we're going to talk about everything we saw. And there are going to be book readers who explain all the stuff we get wrong in the comments down below, hopefully.
Yeah, literally.
Because I'm a little confused about some stuff, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard to follow at times. Not necessarily story-wise. I actually think that the plot is fairly straightforward while also being complicated.
Kind of.
It's not like messy in a way that I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. It's more that who people are and things that they're referring to are tough to keep track of if you are not already familiar with the jargon and vocabulary. The way the dialogue is written assumes a certain level of presumption about the audience's understanding of what's going on. Because I have a pretty good ear for fantasy talk. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I watch a lot of fantasy. I read a lot of fantasy. And there's even times in this where I'm like, okay, that person is connected to that person. No, they're not. That person, like
this faction has come from here and is like,
and like the Whitecloaks were introduced, and I was like, okay, the Whitecloaks hate magic, but then the Whitecloaks split up to have half of them go hunt magicians and half of them go to a war that the magicians are also headed towards. I just like the table setting of the series so far has been just everything all at once. And I think that in terms of my understanding, outside of the main characters, I have a lot of question marks that I'm okay with having, because I think the main characters and what's going on with like the thrust of the main story is interesting, and the casting particularly I think has been exceptionally strong through most of the main characters, especially because the writing at times it fluctuates in quality. I think the world building writing is really strong, and at times the interpersonal writing is less good.
Which is weird, because it's not like consistently mediocre or consistently bad. It's like all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like so solid, and sometimes you're like,
sometimes,
cringe.
The Rand and not Egwene. Yeah, Egwene.
Egwene, yeah.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call her Gawain, the knight from Arthurian legend. The Rand and Egwene relationship is the most inconsistent in terms of quality of writing, where some of their scenes together are in the first episodes, obviously, because they're separated for the third, but some of their scenes together are fantastic, and then some of their scenes together are almost like CW level like story, where it's like, oh, I'm like, wow, okay, and it just I just don't understand why it is like leaping all over the place.
Yeah, at moments they are written more like 14-year-olds than 20-year-olds, which I believe they're supposed to all be 20.
But they definitely bone.
Oh yeah.
In the living room while their parents are upstairs.
Oh, yeah. No,
in the first episode.
They are 20 years old. I am almost positive that the coming of age ceremony that is for 20 years of age.
I just think sometimes their bickering, it feels like high school drama.
Very juvenile.
Yeah, and it's just interesting, because I think that what the show has done really, really well is build out the like world outside of the two rivers while focusing so heavily on the characters of the two rivers.
Yeah.
And allowing us as the audience to perceive the learning about the world as these main characters are learning about the world in a way that I'm really enjoying it and finding to be an exceptional sort of point of view character structure.
Yeah.
It does... It is unfortunate, in my opinion, that the characters get separated so quickly because the third episode, rather than continuing to kind of explore these characters learning about the world, we have to kind of like be very split up. And the third episode is very...
The third episode is kind of a hard pivot because if the first two are the four of them and then Moraine... Yeah, Moraine. Then Moraine shows up and kind of whisks them away. And it's their group dynamic. And I would have... And I'm sure this has to do with the book and the story and what's already been written. But as far as storytelling within the show goes, I wish we had a little bit more time with them as a group before they got separated. But it seems like this book is pretty hefty and they are trying to not... They're trying to clip it along, which I can also appreciate. And so I'm kind of at odds with that one.
I think so. We should probably go through the episodes in order because we're kind of jumping around a lot. We're really enjoying the show. I think that we're talking about things that are a little bit confusing to us, but like on the whole, I'm really liking it.
I love it so far. I am really invested in it. It's given me a lot of hope for the Lord of the Rings series that Amazon will be doing.
Hope they spend more money on the Lord of the Rings than they spent on
this.
And I know they are. I know they are. But there were times watching this where I was like, I hope they spend more money on the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah. And they are, and we already know that.
This show looks really great, like 95% of the time.
And then sometimes you're like...
And then sometimes you're like, that is a green screen.
Yeah,
like, that is...
Yeah. But I just wanted to start off by saying that like, this, I think, has... kind of kindled that fire in me because there's that question of like, what is Amazon going to do? Are they going to go for it? Is it going to be like a watered down, and I think that they will because it feels like for Wheel of Time, they have not pulled any punches and done with their budget the absolute best that they can, which I love to see. I love to see the clear passion and love for the source material here.
So, the top of the first episode is Rosamund Pike as Moraine, and Aes Sedai, which is I'm assuming the like order of women who do magic, but only like the like elitist ones. Based on what we've learned so far.
Aes Sedai were Moraine. Yes, sorry. I was sorry.
I thought it was all of the women who do magic are Aes Sedai. But we learned later that that's not the case. The Aes Sedai are like the ones who are hoity-toity about it. She delivers an incredible opening monologue that I thought really drew me into the world about how the dragon broke the world with his magic. And ever since then, men have not been able to use magic without going insane because it's a woman's power, which is a really fascinating storytelling device to then transition into... I don't know why I'm holding this pen. We see another Aes Sedai who comes back at the end of the third episode. I believe that's one played by Kate Fleetwood, Liandrin Guirale. These names, Gyrael maybe. I doubt they have a Hispanic sounding name. It's probably like Gyrael or something. But she straight up just kills a dude for or no, she doesn't. She brings him back. I thought they were gonna kill that guy. Right?
Oh, is that the same guy?
I think it's the same guy who's in the cage like 2 episodes later, right?
No. Is
it not the same guy?
No. Definitely different person.
I was under the impression it was the same guy. For a second I was like, oh, I thought he died.
No. Definitely not the same guy.
But yeah, so they seem to be so Moraine is in this like gorgeous like jewel tone blue. Insinuating that she's a good person, and Liandrin is in a like harsh red, beautiful crimson red, implying that she's a bad person visually. But they're both Aes Sedai, I think. Yeah.
So in the like opening credit sequence, which I have to say is stunning.
Yeah, opening credits are really beautiful.
Yeah. It's gorgeous. At the end there's the circle with the colors. There's like the white and the blue and the red.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Liandrin is bad. I think it's just gonna be complicated.
Oh,
like,
sure. I'm saying like the
sects of the Aes Sedai.
implication of the way that they're telling that story visually.
Yeah. Was like bad guy, good guy.
Yeah. Is that within like, especially the shot with the upshot of Moraine watching Leandrin down below implies that Moraine literally is morally on the high ground.
Yeah.
And that like their from visual storytelling perspective, they are trying to tell us that Moraine is a good Aes Sedai and Leandrin is the one that you can't trust.
Yeah.
And it's very effective.
Yeah.
The green screen in that wasn't, but that was the worst offender of the whole thing to me.
Yeah.
Was that shot of that mountain? I don't know if it was green screen or if it was just like a weird effect, but that shot did not. The zoom up didn't look good. But that was the moment where I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be on board.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the episode was so fantastic that I was like, oh no, okay, I'm good. It was just one shot that I didn't like. But Leandrin kills that guy, maybe. Or maybe he comes back. I don't know. And Moraine's like, no, but there's 4 other people who might be the dragon at this town. Mm-hmm. So we go to the 2 rivers.
Yeah.
And we meet Rand, who I thought was named Brand for like the first 40 minutes. I was like, oh, Brand. It's so weird that we had Bran and Brand, but it's now Bran and Rand. We meet Egwene, who I thought was named Gawain. So I have a great track record with the characters so far.
Yeah,
we meet Perrin and his wife, who we'll get to that. And we meet Matt Cawthorn.
Yeah, we've got Rand, Perrin, Egwene, and Matt.
And Matt. It's my favorite thing in fantasy when there's like a Peter. And you're like,
well,
all
it's
right.
it's like I this is like a weird like callback, but like in Dune, the fact that like the main character is Paul is so weird to me.
I mean, here's the thing. Dune is at least the future of our world.
Yeah.
And so like
Whereas
Duncan Idaho is literally like, his name is Duncan Idaho. Is a reference to the fact that like the concept of Idaho is in the history of his family probably or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, like, it was Matt Cawthorn, and then when we meet the Gleamer in episode 3, and his name is Tom Maryland, and I was like, it literally took me out for a moment because I was like,
yeah, you're like, what?
It's spelled differently. I'm reading it now and I can see that like it's spelled it's not spelled like Maryland, but they say Maryland, and I was like, is this in the did the Wheel of Time, is the like the breaking of the world we're currently in, and this is like our future, and the name Maryland has continued on?
No. It is kind of it's a choice. I don't hate it. It just makes me chuckle.
I don't hate it. It just is one of those like Matt and Tom hanging out with Perrin, Egwene, and Rand. Yeah. It just is like this weird.
Well, and then you have Moraine and Leandrin and
it's just those 2 names.
Yeah.
And they. Now that we've seen a few episodes of it, I'm fine. I've accepted it. Yeah. But it in the moment, it took me out. It's sort of like the music in episode 1 kind of took me out. The music in episode 1, we were talking about it. It felt a little modern country. It felt like more modern than the setting it was portrayed in.
Yeah, I didn't really notice it. Like, you said something about it.
That's right. It was something I noticed. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I was not bothered. It wasn't weird to me, but.
I think it might partially just be a bias on my ear of like what I think fantasy music sounds like, and that I'm like adding something in that's not fair to the show. And I actually did end up liking it in the episode, and I like the choice. I wish that it had continued in the next 2 episodes, which have very different music stylings. But I will say this. You know what? I'm going to say this. The pilot feels very different from the following 2 episodes.
Yeah, and we were talking about that, and it seems like they filmed and shot the pilot, and we're like, dear God, hopefully we can do this thing. And then they got approved for the show, and we're like, oh, okay, now we can do the rest of it. There is a weird disconnect, I think. I don't know what to call it, but it definitely feels like the pilot was shot at a completely different time.
Which is usually what happens, right? Like, usually they do shoot this pilot separately, or in Game of Thrones case, shoot the pilot, then fire half the cast and shoot the pilot again. God, I wish we could see that first pilot. I want to see it so bad. But the pilot, in my opinion, like dipped a little bit in interest when they were introducing all these characters, just because it was so many characters.
So many people.
There's a lot of people really fast.
Yeah.
And I didn't care about any of their problems until they introduced Matt's parents. And then once they introduce Matt's parents, the show takes off for me. Because Matt, to me, when they first introduce him, I'm like, oh, he's, like a dandelion. He's like, like the fancy one. And then they introduce the like, oh no, he will rob his friends to pay for his sister's well-being. And I was like, oh, this character is immediately 10,000% more interesting.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, what's wrong with everyone else?
Yeah.
If we're going to allow our main characters to be this kind of endearingly flawed, like understandably flawed, when he steals the girl's bracelet, I wasn't mad at him. Or I was mad at him at first.
Like,
and then I see why. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I can empathize with him because he feels three-dimensional. And I was like, oh, are we going to have all of these characters feel three-dimensional by the end of this episode? And I think for the most part, they really pull that off. And so that lull where I'm like, oh God, there's a lot of pretty young people in this show. I really hope this doesn't end up feeling like another show full of pretty young people who maybe aren't the strongest actors. By the end of the pilot episode, I was like, damn, and part of it is the action sequence, I think, with the Trollocs is really well done. But the first episode really sold me on liking these people, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel cookie cutter. Not like, it's not really like fantasy tropey. Sometimes you get a copy paste and they just put new pretty people over, but.
And the people are pretty.
Oh yeah, like let's be honest.
This whole cast is so stunning.
Yeah, seriously, what the heck.
We'll get to my opinion on Daniel Henney in a minute.
Yeah, he's the star of the show. But anyways, I think it's really impressive that there are so many characters and so many main characters that we already know so much about and have a connection to. I think that's really tough to do, and they pulled it off stunningly.
Yeah, so the town gets attacked by Trollocs the morning after Moraine shows up. We also see Egwene get tossed in a river for being a woman.
And then they braid her hair.
They
braid her hair and then they throw her in the river.
They braid her hair, but they say the braid is really important. But like all the women's braids look the same or aren't the same.
No, they're all completely.
They have different braids. So, but also like I thought that I was like, oh crap! Like look at this like coven of witches, kind of like look at this group of magician or magic users. But only the two of those women have the power. So No,
I think it's just all women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really understand.
The town has like a...
Yeah.
Femme club. I don't know.
A femme club?
I don't know. Like that...
I just didn't... I kind of wish I understood what that was about, I guess.
We never will, because the two rivers got destroyed. So
No, it didn't. They left, and the Trollocs followed them. I mean, a lot of people there.
A lot of people are dead, and a lot of things are destroyed. So
that's fair. They can rebuild.
They'll rebuild, I guess. But yeah, that significance was never really fully fleshed out for the audience.
I just thought they were all... I was confused because the scene before that is the women who have the magic, and then they cut to a scene with a bunch of women doing this ceremony saying you're part of our, like, you're coming of age, you're part of our tribe, or whatever language they use.
Yeah.
And so the implication that I got from it was that they were all able to use the power. So when the Trollocs attacked, I was like, oh crap, well, it's a good thing we have like the 20 women, right? And then even Nynaeve, who is supposed to be like the town...
She's like the healer.
But she's supposed to be the town magician, doesn't like do anything.
Yeah.
Because she has a line before that where she's like, it's my job to protect the town. And at no point does she do anything to protect the town. And so I think that the show was like hinting at things to the audience and obliquely saying things like, it's my job to protect the town, that then those characters didn't follow up on in any way. And I didn't understand. I just was left kind of being like, well, okay, but then if you're not a fighter, that's fine. But then your job isn't really to protect the town, right? Like that can't be your role if when the town is attacked, you run and hide.
Yeah.
And then she gets to have this great action sequence 2 episodes later, explaining how she came back from that fight.
That attack.
And I was like, okay, but like if you're the badass who wants to fight in the fight, why did you run and hide behind the house?
She wasn't hiding. She was trying to help. There was a guy who was injured, right? And she was pulling him like out of the
they were
conflict.
but running away from the conflict. I felt like they were setting her up to be a fight. Like the dialogue and the sequences were setting up that like we have this like tribe of women who have the power and we're gonna do the thing, and then the fight started and everyone just kind of flees.
I mean, she's not even really a fighter in the 3rd episode.
Oh, 100%. But then it was the I'm the protector of this town. Leading into that, I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna see her be okay. She's doing nothing.
Yeah.
That I found confusing in terms of a like. I wanted to understand the town a little bit better, I think, and they talk about how like there's all these wars going on, and then they get attacked, and it just seems like this town is totally unprepared for it.
Yeah, they have no defense systems whatsoever, 0 soldiers.
And it seems like this world is dangerous enough that wouldn't be very smart.
Yeah.
And like that's all. And I don't mind it. Like I'm fine with that being the story.
Yeah.
I just kind of was like, you were very unprepared.
Yeah.
To be attacked. But cool. I'm glad Moraine was there to, rip your inn apart and turn it into a weapon.
That was cool.
Cool, but at the same time, I feel like I'm just complaining about things. I liked the show a lot.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is her power? Because she's like, lightning, wind, fireballs. I can rip the house apart and throw that. And I was like,
pretty sure she just has elemental powers.
Yeah, but is she in control of them? Or does she just be like, I need power and random things happen? Because it felt highly random. It
kind of did. It's like that spell in D&D where you like roll a d4 and that's the kind of damage that it does or whatever.
It was like the Pokemon attack, Tri-Attack, where it's like it's a normal attack, but you can burn, freeze, or paralyze.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like she was like power attack. Yeah. And then it was like, all right, the power feels like being lightning now, and then it feels like being fireballs. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I would not want to be in a battle with this woman because being around her does not feel safe. Random things are happening. The tree's on fire. The inn is ripped apart. I was like, it doesn't feel like you would want to be side by side with her. Except
for her companion, who...
My favorite character.
Like, the way that they work together and how their stuff is choreographed is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Like, the sequence with the magic and the fighting, like, they are very clearly a team that has been together for years and years and years and has this like level of trust, and like, oh, it was so good to watch.
Daniel Henney is my favorite part of the show so far. I don't know if it's Alan or Alalan Mandragoran. I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but
I don't even know if we've heard him say.
Damn, he's so good.
Yeah,
he's so good, and his character's so interesting, and his relationship to Moraine is so cool. And I love him so much that there was a point where I was like, oh, he's about to die. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep watching the show. Like, if Alan dies, I think I'm out.
That's it. I quit.
There's a point, we got to the top of episode 3, and it's like the first time that they're separated into like the groups. And I was like, honestly, if we just stop following the other 4 and we just follow Moraine and Alan, I'm good. Like, they're the characters I care about the most.
Alan.
Partially, and part of that is that throughout episode 2 and 3, so basically the Trollocs attack, awful things happen. Perrin accidentally kills his wife.
Oh my god, in the like most ridiculous sequence I have ever watched. Like, I sat there with my jaw hanging open for like 10 minutes. Like, I just like,
yeah, it was shocking and so well shot and edited, like everything about it.
Oh my god.
And like what a setup for that character's emotional arc throughout the rest of the show.
God, yeah.
But they do end up leaving with Moraine because there's more Trollocs coming, and if they stay in Two Rivers, they're going to be, they're going to destroy their hometown. They put everyone
in danger, yeah.
And then the episode 2 has a lot of our main characters don't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. They don't know why it's happening, and so they're complaining about not understanding what's going on. And it is, to me, the least interesting thing that you can do in fiction, is to just take a bunch of people and have them walking and not understanding why. Because it leads to scenes where it's just well, we're not going to come with you because we don't understand. All right. Okay, we'll come with you. And I was like, wait, what?
Here's the thing, though. I feel like Moraine gives them the information that she has. Like, you know what I mean? That I don't really know what else they wanted from her. She said, this is where we're going, and this is why.
Yeah, but she hasn't set up, like... Because I don't understand who or what the Dark One is. And, like, naming him the Dark One is a great shorthand for, oh, he's bad? But, like, why? Like genuinely.
I believe it's because he wants to destroy the wheel.
Yeah, they keep bringing that up.
Well, because that's what the
Is the Wheel of Time a real thing in this world? Or is the Wheel of Time the constant moving of time? Because this is, and this is, I think, why I'm lost a little bit on the show. And I'm enjoying it. I want to be really clear. I'm enjoying it. But they keep bringing up the wheel. And, like, is the wheel God? Because sometimes they bring it up as if it's, like, the wheel brings you choices. And I'm like, how can you break that? I'm also confused. I'm confused from the beginning when she's like, the world was broken. And then there's all these people who seem to be living just fine. 3,000 years later. And I'm like, what do you mean the world was... Like, I don't understand, like, what any of it means. And so I get when they're like, well, why are we going there? And she's like, well, we just have to get to the White Tower. And then they're like, well, what happens then? And she's like, we just have to get there. And I'm like, why can't they know? Does it matter? Like,
I don't think that she knows. I think that it's... like, these people are important, and if the Dark One gets them, bad things happen, so we need to take them to our strongest location, which is the White Tower.
Then just say that. Right? Like, I think that we have to infer that.
I don't know. I feel like that's pretty explicit. She's like, the Dark One is hunting you, and we don't want you to die, so we're heading to the White Tower. Like...
Yeah, I think that I personally am just, and I think that, like, if you've read the book, you're like, you're so dumb. It's so simple. But I'm just kind of sitting there watching it going, like, is there, like, a plan?
Yeah,
is this a war? Is the war in the south between the Dark One and someone else? Because the Aes Sedai are supposed to head there to fight. But then also, like, why do the Whitecloaks hate the Aes Sedai? And whose side are the Whitecloaks on?
It's probably a bunch of men that are just like, women.
Right, but for what purpose? Like, is there a country that these people think that they're a part of? I feel like these questions will get answered, right?
Yeah,
But, like, they just kind of are like, oh, yeah, these are the Whitecloaks. They kill magicians. And I'm like, okay, cool, why?
Yeah, that
and the
scene
show
was
has not...
brutal.
Incredibly shot.
Yeah.
Incredibly shot. And, like, so affecting, right? But I was like, okay, but why are they doing this? And if the Aes Sedai have this crazy power, how are the Whitecloaks able to overpower them?
Well, because they're not allowed to attack.
Oh, they're not allowed to harm anyone.
Yeah, they cannot harm anyone except in the last dire circumstance.
But wouldn't the Whitecloaks are coming to kill you be the last dire circumstance?
I don't think unless they are physically under threat. Right? Because
cut off that woman's hands.
Sure, and she probably, like, she was probably by herself, you know what I mean? I don't think that the Aes Sedai in their White Tower can march their army to go take out the Whitecloaks. I think that they have to wait to be in the situation of life or death before they can harm people, is kind of what it seems to be.
Right.
I don't know.
Okay, sure, yeah. I just, like, in those last moments, I feel like you have a pretty good shot.
The Aes Sedai?
Yeah, I feel like they have a pretty good... I feel like they've got a pretty good shot in that fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm just like, okay, how are you pulling this off?
Pulling what off?
Killing all these Aes Sedai.
Well, you isolate them, right? So that they can't heal themselves. And, like, I'm sure that there are ways to trick them so that they don't use they can't use their power offensively.
Sure, and we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I guess the real question I want to get into, because I get, like, there's ways to win the fight, right? My question is, for what purpose is this happening? And I think that within the context of the show, a lot of my hesitation at the moment, because I'm liking what is happening, and I'm liking the acting. I'm liking the visual direction. I think is fantastic.
Oh god,
I think the real world locations they've chosen to shoot in are insanely beautiful.
Amazing.
I don't understand why anyone is doing anything.
Yeah.
And I think that for me is the most like frustrating part, because I'm kind of like, and I think that it's doubled because the characters are saying exactly what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And they're like, but why? And they don't get answers. And I don't know if it's drawing out because it has to be a reveal at a later point in the show or what. But there's the point in the 3rd episode where we meet the girl, the bartender, who is a agent of the Dark One. And she's like, the Dark One wants to help you break the wheel because the wheel is what is keeping us in this cycle of violence. Mm-hmm. And she's the only character that gives these two guys any sort of actual idea of what anything is. That there was a part of me that was like, I don't know why they're against her. That's a pretty solid argument. And Moraine hasn't given like the other side to them. Mm-hmm. Moraine's just been like, you gotta come with me.
Yeah.
But like, if you were telling me this world is insane, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of violence in this world. You're telling me, like, the wheel wants this to happen? I'd be like, yeah, okay, maybe let's go break the wheel.
I mean, I don't know. Anything that aligns with a Trolloc, I don't think I would trust, personally. That one Trolloc was like, that Trolloc, oh no, you're hurt? Oh no, and fucking, like, ripped its guts out. And I was like, yeah. Okay.
That's your one F bomb.
Oh,
I'm cutting you off.
Damn it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that, like, hopefully I'm really hoping in the next couple of episodes, the why and, like, a little bit more of, like, the function of the world starts to make a bit more sense.
Yeah, because I'm so curious. I love all these ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I want to know so bad.
Yeah, and maybe we just read the book. But in terms of bringing new fans into this, I'm not sure.
It is very high fantasy.
I'm not sure that the show is doing a great job of that. Because I think that if I wasn't such a big fantasy fan, who's just, like, so in it for, like, the Trolloc fights and so in it for the knowledge that I probably will get the answers eventually, I think that this is a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot. It's dense.
Yeah.
And Amazon is not putting the kind of money into this show that they're like, it's for a niche audience. They want this to be 4-quadrant. And right now, I love the people. I love the characters. I love what is happening on a smaller scale. Mm-hmm. But, like, when the characters go why, I'm sitting there going, yeah, please. Yeah. Let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sure we'll find out. I'm just, I'm really enjoying the show, and I'm kind of, like, on the roller coaster for the ride, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, so hopefully hopefully it pays off at the end.
I want to talk to you about the end of the 2nd episode. They go to this cursed city because they're being chased by the Trollocs, and so Moraine, who is sidelined for most of episode 2 and 3, unfortunately, because she's ill, she's dying. Moraine says don't go there, but they go there to, like, it's called Schlachtel or something.
Anyways, the Trollocs are chasing them, and it's either get killed by Trollocs or escape into this city that they won't go into.
Shadar Logoth.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a cursed city. This was one of the coolest concepts in fantasy in a long time for me. This city, to me, a city that died because of its own greed and has become a place of death so vile that even these evil creatures of evil who work for pure evil will not enter.
Yeah.
I was like, this is rad.
Yeah, it was very cool. The visual representation of it. Mm-hmm. First of all, the city was stunning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like the stonework, the effects, like all of it, and then the like sickness, the black, like, I don't know, mold, whatever it was, this like death that chased them was terrifying.
Yeah. Like, it was a living shadow.
Yeah. And they did, it was incredibly well done. I loved the concept of it, and just the hollowness of this city that it just, it's this vast space with no people in it, where clearly there were, and there's like no real, except for that like weird cursed chest that Matt found. But there's no like there's nothing personal in it. There's no belongings really. There's no furniture. There's no like there's no bones. Like it was eerily empty.
I think that in terms of like a horror concept, it was so strong to me. It was scarier to me than the Trollocs, than the eyeless, which look great. The eyeless look really cool. That effect, not one of the ones I'm talking about when I'm talking about things that maybe don't.
Yeah.
The eyeless are rad.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see them in a fight or like actually do something other than like sit on their horse, because they look freaking cool. I also really like the look of the Trollocs. I think the Trollocs I think they're really well done. But the city, that city was very interesting. I also felt like the city was it almost felt like the city wasn't trying to kill them. Like it would if it caught them, but the city was kind of like leading them out. And maybe that's just because it is a show, they have plot armor, they're going to make it, but it almost felt like the shadows just wanted them to leave.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of like corralled to, because the city could have just cut them off, right? I don't know how that shadow moves, right? It could have just cut them off, but it didn't. It kind of like corralled them to a way out, and then they left.
Yeah.
And it was just that image of the horse being taken apart by it was just horrifying and wonderful. In terms of, design. And I really, the Shadar Logoth stuff was so cool.
Yeah, very well done. That was chilling.
Yeah, and I think that what's interesting about that, though, is on the flip side, like the next episode, visually, I like the town that Brand and Matt are in. I liked the song. The song was great. And then you go over to Egwene and Perrin. And the visual of what they're going through was very odd to me.
Really?
Yeah, I found like they're
like wasteland.
They're on this weird wasteland, and then there's a point where they're like the wolves are closer, and then they're suddenly in a forest.
Oh yeah, there
was a weird. There was like some of the editing made it seem like they were like traversing great distances much quicker than I thought was possible.
Yeah, it was very strange, and the distance of the wolves didn't really make sense because they were howling. And then several hours later, they were still howling, and it's like, the wolves are closer. And you're like, well, I mean, they've been...
Yeah.
How do you know? They've been there this whole time. We can hear them.
Their journey through episode 2 very much felt like filler.
Yeah, to get them to the caravans of people.
Perrin is a Beastmaster or something. I think he's going to be a werewolf by the end of the show or something like that.
Yeah.
He's going to be running with them wolves.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it. He's great. I love Perrin a lot.
Yeah.
He's got like, there's like a tortured soul in his eyes in the show.
Yeah.
That is, he's able to like smile and laugh through things and never lose that.
Yeah.
And I think that like the way he's carrying himself as this character is just like heart-wrenching moment to moment in a way that I'm so impressed by. I love Perrin so much.
Yeah.
And that actor is that actor is Marcus Rutherford. He's doing a great job. They all kind of are, right?
Yeah.
I think
everyone's very strong.
Yeah. My question to you. So they bring up the 5. We meet that 5th guy. I have a feeling that one of the 4 goes bad.
Yes.
Who do you think it is? And why is it Perrin or Matt?
Honestly, I think making it Rand would be an interesting choice just for Egwene.
Rand is going to be the dragon.
You think so?
Yeah.
That ginger hair.
He's got fire red hair. Rand is the dragon, right?
I don't know.
It has to be one of the men. Because I think that from a storytelling perspective, having it... And I only say this because in this world, having it be a woman is boring.
Yeah.
Because the women already have... Like the dragon, if you're going to tell the story, the dragon has to be the one man that can wield the power.
Yeah.
Because it has to be the flip. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, she's a woman who's just stronger.
Yeah. No. It's going to be one of the guys. Obviously, we don't really know anything about this new 5th person yet. But if I were to put money on it right now... the way that they're like building it up makes it seem like it's gonna be Matt,
which makes you think it's not gonna be Matt.
Exactly. I think it's gonna be Perrin.
I think Rand showed us that he's the dragon when he took down that door.
Yeah, she was like, that's ironwood. You'd take 3 men your size to break down or something like that.
It's not how doors work.
Yeah.
It's about the hinges.
Yeah.
Just go for the hinges.
Although, you know, it was...
Also, the fact that
shook the whole thing.
The fact that she let him do that...
she was just very confident.
She was just, like, watching him, and I was like...
handiwork.
You could, like, I don't know, like, cut his calf or something. Like, there were so many ways that she could have subdued him.
Yeah, and she was so cocky. She did not care.
Yeah.
She's like, no, we're good.
There's a couple of things like that in the show that where, like, you could just do something.
Yeah.
People are kind of like, okay. Like when they homage the Lord of the Rings scene where they get to the river and cross.
Yeah.
It's wild how much Lord of the Rings that is. Yeah. It's wild how much Lord of the Rings this show is, if I'm going to be completely honest, but
well, wasn't the author of The Wheel of Time and J.R.R. Tolkien friends, or
maybe, but I would not rewrite my friend's book.
He's not rewriting his book, but they I believe have a lot of influence. If it's the person that I'm thinking about, I do believe that they were like written around the same time, because
this book is friends. 20 years later.
Is it?
Yeah, it says 60s.
Oh, okay, never mind. Then perhaps I'm thinking of a different author.
No, but like if you look at like the storyline, right? A magic user comes to town there and leaves with the special one and their 3 friends. They are being chased by the Nazgul, and they have to cross the river because it's the one thing that they can't cross.
Buckleberry Ferry.
Like it's like the first episode and the second episode, I was like, it's Lord of the Rings. Well, but darker. It's like adult Lord of the Rings with like death and blood and
then they have this scene where the merchant shows up in the carriage, homaging Gandalf with the kids chasing him. Literally, like
there are so many things that I'm like, oh, you really liked the Lord of the Rings movie when you made this.
Yeah.
And you're making Lord of the Rings. Like, to be fair to Amazon, they do own the rights to Lord of the Rings, so they can do that.
Perhaps the Wheel of Time is just an ad for the Lord of the Rings show.
Oh. We are all aware that the Wheel of Time season 1 is Amazon beta testing whether or not they can make a Lord of the Rings
they're like,
show.
guys, trust, please, we got this. Please trust us.
I don't want to disparage people who love this book, because I know that people love this series, and so I'm not saying that it is a direct ripoff of Lord of the Rings. I've heard that I've been told by people on YouTube in our comments on our trailer reactions being like, the first book rips a lot of Lord of the Rings, and then books 2 onward are very different.
Okay.
If you go back to our trailer reactions, people have written that comment like more than once.
Okay.
On each video, right?
Yeah.
So it is interesting because I do feel the Lord of the Rings influence.
Yes.
Particularly in the walking scenes. But and the use of music, like there is a willingness to lean into the narrative structure of Lord of the Rings and the narrative stylings of the Lord of the Rings movies to tell the story.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that, because this is dense and hard to get into, and so giving me something familiar is helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
I think we've been talking for 43 minutes.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about everything, but we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
It'll be easier week to week when it's 1 episode.
Yeah. Doing 3 at a time is tough.
And episode 4 of the show is called The Dragon Reborn. So I feel like a lot of the answers that I need are going to be in that next episode.
Yeah, maybe the dragon will actually be this 5th person.
No, it's going to be Rand.
All right.
Yeah, he looks too much like Hayden Christensen not to be the chosen one.
Right, he has to be the chosen
He's
one.
Ginger Anakin Skywalker.
That's fair.
It's wild to me. I can't unsee it. From the moment he popped on the screen, I was like, oh, it's a young Hayden Christensen with ginger hair.
It's Christian Haydenson.
Christian Haydenson. Oh, that's
You're welcome.
Funny.
Yeah, no, it'll be easier to make these a little bit shorter in the coming weeks. But I'm really excited for the next episode. I am truly, like, itching for the next episode, so.
I am too. I think I might be wrong. And I think that my desire to know the answer to the question why might be the strength of the series drawing me in. Like, that might just be evidence that, like, oh no, I want to know, and so the hooks of the series are in. I'm going to be watching week to week to find out. And so, I think that, like, that feeling of, like, I'm slightly dissatisfied in the moment might be wrong-headed of me. And as I learn the answers, because the show has hooked me, I'm going to get what I need from it. And I want to acknowledge that. I'm sitting 3 episodes in being like, I love it and I want to keep watching, but like I need to know why things are happening.
Yeah,
and so I think that the way I've talked about it in this episode, I might end up turning around on myself a few episodes from now.
All right, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. If you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't like this video, that's fine. Hit the dislike button or leave mean comments down below because the algorithm god is hungry and we must feed her. As always, you can follow us over on the Twitches, the fan houses, the Patreons, all those places. Just go /Nerdy Nightly, unless it's Twitch, because you can also follow her.
I'm over at twitch.tv/ClarishDakaris.
Yeah! If there was a wheel-time video game, she would be playing it.
I would be playing it 100%. Yeah.
As always, y'all. Do something nerdy tonight.
Bye.
Bye.
Ooh, it's a little long. Oopsie.
Oh, it's still recording.